to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiances. Get that going, and then we'll roll out of here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
I
the
Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one is indivisible. I get that right.
Well, it's whether to pause under God or not. That's what I say.
Yeah, one state, under God, indivisible.
No, there's no comma there. That's the thing.
There isn't?
The hard pause.
One state under God. Then,
Indivisible.
Yeah.
Prayer.
Yes, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day and thank you for all your wonderful blessings. Father God, we just ask that you be with us as we go about this meeting. Let it open in peace and close in harmony. Lord, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't look like any of the public's here. Hi, Kim, how you doing? Good to see you.
Yes.
That was item 3. So consider an act on the draft water reclamation #1 decision matrix. So that's where we're starting, and then we go to the really the only other item on the deal.
I can give
So would you like to just start, help us with what maybe what some other MUDs have done, your observations of maybe what's worked well, what maybe hasn't worked so well?
Yep.
Our goal was to come up with a ranked pairing for MUD 47-1, right?
right.
Composite ranked pairing for MUD 47.
And I'll back up one additional step before I get into that, just to kind of get everybody up to speed. You know, we had talked about getting comments to me by the end of November. That occurred. I got comments from a number of directors across all the MUDs.
How many?
I want to say there was probably 6
Yeah.
directors.
I say I asked directors in all the MUDs and very few people even understood this, including engineers.
That was probably apparent from the trustee meeting, if you watch that.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, the MUDs have gone through it pretty well so far, but and then out of those comments, Carollo, the engineer, actually took all those comments in and presented a revised criteria structure, refined the structure, identified some definitions on the criteria, which went from 7 to 6, and then revised the sub-criteria to give some little scale or weighting to that to give some insight. So what most of the districts so far have done is basically, I think you need to be relatively familiar with this or understand the definition sheet. I think that's probably the most helpful. And what they've done was, you know, most folks are coming to the meeting having already filled theirs out. And then we basically go through it line item by line item, and it's kind of an organic conversation. What's everybody have for the first one? Oh, I had one. Okay, some of them are real obvious. Everybody kind of wants one or, you know, whatever selection. There are others on here that may have some not debate, but some conversation. So there was a couple instances where it might be a 2-2. Okay, tell me a little bit about where you're coming from. Tell me a little bit about, and so folks would kind of share, here's why I thought this one over that one. And that was very organic. And then some folks were like, you know what? I see what you're saying. Okay, I'll flip, and just kind of organically go right through the list. So that's what most of them have done. That's what 7 ended up doing. They did a little interim step that I think didn't and maybe end up the way they thought, but just to kind of rank each criteria separately into individuals, and they didn't end up really using it necessarily, but
Okay.
so that's what's worked well, is just going through it and having an open dialogue amongst yourselves about your thoughts on each one.
Okay, thanks for that. One suggestion I think was a good one was just going through these criteria, the 1 through 6 again, and let's just see if there's any questions or kind of things that just don't compute right now. We're crystal clear on all these, and then go into maybe the process of starting with the first pairing and saying, you know, where are we on that? Who votes for one, who votes for two, and then just see where it goes. If we're all voting, if we're in agreement, for violent agreement, we can move on and follow your kind of process.
Yep.
That makes sense. So the first one, life cycle cost. Good to see this as a net present value. Now we're probably gonna have to talk about what goes into the net present value kind of assumptions. I know we had some of that before. I think that's an ongoing conversation. 50 years, so after year 20, probably not a whole lot of value in the cost later on, but it does include O&M, capital and O&M. So it's full cost cycle. And then it breaks it down so you can kind of look at it from a metric perspective. And this is one of the asks we had in trying to come up with all these is what kind of units should we think about, right? How do you score this stuff? So what is the incremental unit cost per 1,000 gallons per each year is kind of the way you would kind of compare the four against the, if that's the top, whatever ranking this is, right? Any questions on that one? And some of the other ones have cost elements to them as well. I mean, so they're not all just kind of unique and discrete. I don't think.
Yeah, I would say probably almost every other one does have a cost implication to it, perhaps.
So, yeah, I'm just curious, like safety's on all of them, right? And safety to me is, you know, it's a fixed item. It's going to be there no matter what. So I'm just curious why that would be on the matrix.
Because you can make some decisions on the facility that are for safety. Now, the basic stuff like, you know, handrails and non-slip things and you know, not stepping over stuff, just the normal OSHA related things, that's all going to be covered.
Right.
But for instance, an easy one to talk about is chlorine gas. So one of the most dangerous gases you can be around, which if you're around it, you will die. If you get into the cloud of it, you will literally die. That's utilized at these facilities. It is now. A lot of facilities choose to use bleach. Same effect, not as effective as gaseous chlorine, but a little probably more expensive, but highly safe. A whole tank of bleach, you know, breaks and spills everywhere. No one's dying. It's just, you know, but it's a mess, but no one's really. So you could choose some different things within the operations of a facility that do have additional safety measures related to them. But yeah, all the options are going to have the standard, you know, required safety measures in the plan itself.
I think there's another aspect in my mind, which is during construction. And I personally don't think safety's been elevated very high across the board, but that's just kind of probably because where it came from. But when you are constructing in a same location and co-located where you're also operating, you have a lot more opportunities for people to get hurt, you know, for bad things to happen. You're lifting, you have heavy lifts, you're working from heights, you've got worries about dropped objects and things like that. So the workforce, not just the SJRA workforce, but contractor workforce, you know, lives are at risk when you are piling on and having these complex operations. We used to call them simultaneous operations, construction and ongoing operations. So building in a separate facility completely away, you're not in your operating envelope at all, except when you do tie-ins later on and you kind of interconnecting the two. Doing it on top of each other, it's like a turnaround at a refinery. When you're doing that in the middle of a refinery while you're operating the darn thing, it's a really, really hazardous environment. So this could be a 5 or 6 year construction project. I don't know how long.
3 to 4.
3 to 4.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe a little bit longer if you're working on top of a site versus on a separate site. So you're longer in that environment. So that's another safety element. And right,
you fall into one of those bubbling tanks, you can't float in those, so you sink and die if someone can't get you to you quick enough. If you're working over an existing, so that would be another safety example that might be paramount too.
And does the MBR technology versus traditional technology have any inherent more safe kind of components to it or technology? Do you eliminate bleach or chlorine needs in MBR?
I can't answer that at the moment. We don't have enough experience with MBR.
Do we have chlorine where we're in our current plant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gaseous chlorine currently.
Are
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, a lot of facilities, so in Harris County, on the water side, when the Regional Water Authority came about and water municipalities were changing to surface water back in 2010, they were required to move to chloramines, and a lot of them were along with that additional disinfectant on the water side. They were finding that if they were going to go that route on the water side, that maybe it's a good idea to switch to bleach on across all the facilities. And so a lot of them did that, but it's not as efficient. A lot more safer though. But yeah, we have gaseous chlorine, a number of different chemicals particularly at the wastewater treatment plant. So on a wastewater treatment plant, state of Texas over 1 MGD, which is 2 of your 3, Harper's this doesn't apply. You chlorinate to disinfect the microorganisms that are still left after the process. And then you have to put another chemical in to dechlor before it goes out in the receiving stream on any plant over 1 MGD. So Harper's doesn't do it. The other 2 do. There's another that's, we used to know it, sodium dioxide.
Yeah, it's not
Overly.
It's not anhydrous ammonia. You don't use that, do you?
Mm.
Okay.
No, but
That's really bad stuff.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of different chemicals involved.
She was the feeling that in your opinion, safety is not ranked as high among just conversations with trustees or.
Well, it was buried in one of the sub-criteria before. One of my bit of feedback was that I think safety should be raised. I mean, it's just something that Eric's trying to do anyway for the water agency, is bringing safety top of mind. SJRA, I know, is going to be on board with that. And so I just, in my view, now it is a safety, now it's its own criteria, which I think is good. Now, people can think about it however they want. That's fine. But it's now there to be assessed and to be considered. It's human lives. It's, the whole thing is you want people to go home the same way they came to work. And losing hands and eyesight and fingers and feet and stuff is part of the operating world that unfortunately still exists. Chevron almost completely got rid of it, but spent a fortune in the process of doing it. Had a chairman that got kicked out because they said it was going to be too expensive. He ended up being the right guy. He was right about the whole safety thing. Turns out. So but that's my background, that's my experience. That's not something that I would expect others to share necessarily. So we move on to, let's go to operations and maintenance consideration. So how complex is the alternative in terms of O&M? So the implication here is additional staff or training required. Does the alternative require peak flow storage? Can the plant operate in manual mode in the event of SCADA outage? There's a lot going on in that definition, right?
They all require peak flow storage, just some less than others. Isn't that correct?
No.
No, MBR doesn't require it.
No, well, it was part of the freeze report, and it was identified to catch that on those heavier rainfall events, to catch that initial rainfall, so it didn't overflow the plant. So you don't have to have that. That was what because the alternative, it starts backing up into the system, and then you're time constrained until that affects people. Get back so far up in the system that it's in the streets, etc. So that's why they put it in as part of the
storage tank.
Right, it's just a big
Front end. Yeah.
Training is required a lot more with MBR, right? That's new to everybody, I understand.
It's been around for 20 years. It's not probably new to the SJRA workforce, I would say. I don't know about contractors who come in and work on that. So, I think there's 2 elements there in my mind, at least. There's your instrumentation and electric and I&E area. I would say, and Eric, you can, chime in, that the level of instrumentation for this wastewater treatment plant right now seems to me to be kind of moderate. I don't think it's a highly instrumented facility. They've got some pieces in there now that are talking back and forth, and it's got some live real-time measurement, the ability to operate remotely, full SCADA. Don't think that's all there. So, and then there's this idea of, one of my questions is, well, can a plant operate in manual mode in the event of a SCADA outage? Well, The SCADA outage kind of could be one of two things. You could have a power outage, but we have backup generators, which will run the SCADA. It's probably going to load manage some of the, maybe the bigger pumps and things like that, but you probably should be able to operate valves and control things and get into a stable place, I would think. But then, you ask yourself, well, manual mode. So is that something in the SCADA system completely failing, not related to power? You just have a board that dries and now you can't see anything. Can you get guys out there on wrenches and valves and start turning things by hand and manually? I think that's what kind of it's getting to a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And then training, to me, the training is almost a positive. If you're an operator at a plant, you've been out there for 10, 20 years, because something new comes along, you get to learn some new technology. It goes into your kind of your resume, your CV, and you become more knowledgeable about maybe a newer technology. It's like sitting by the old analog world. Now you've got a new digital world. It tends to motivate workforces. They see that they can improve their skill set and their knowledge. And training is kind of, I say completely one and done, but it's kind of front end loaded, and then it kind of just continues on. So I don't see it as a big cost element per se. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, no, I think they're more talking about, once this thing's built, is it going to require more resources to operate it? And so, depending on which technology, does one or the other require more resources? Does one or the other require more training? Both are going to require training, but obviously, if they go the route of conventional, that's what the plan is now. Now it's going to look a little different. Obviously, technology's changed so much that even in conventional facility, it's still going to operate differently. Every plant operates differently, regardless of the technology of the treatment process. So, I think overall they're just talking about, is it going to be easier to operate or a little more difficult, a little bit more hands-on?
Most operations experience with new technology a reduction in workforce. I could tell you the refineries or gas plants or power plants that I've been involved in, over time, the working staff gets cut more than half. You used to have a dozen operators running that plant. Now you can do it with two, one inside, one kind of making rounds. This is just stunning.
Keep training them though, and now they've got a talent that they take elsewhere, kind of thing.
Yeah,
But if you have something, a kind of plant that's ubiquitous, you can get people from anywhere. And so you have, you can go out and buy it on Amazon kind of thing, instead of having to go to Harvard to get an expert in the thing. I don't know, a silly example, but I can see that the more training, if you're looking for a great job and higher compensation, a more complicated plant that requires more training be desirable.
You could relate this to your car. Your car 20 years ago, you could fix a few things and it didn't tell you a whole lot when it was wrong, when something was gone wrong with it, but you could kind of fix it. You kind of
That's a good
troubleshoot
analogy.
it. And today there's a lot of codes inside, and a technician can look at it, and the computer kind of tells you what's wrong, but you can't fix it yourself anymore, right?
Yeah.
And that's frustrating.
It seems like it does a lot more for you and it's more convenient, but it's, there's some things that go with it. So
Prepares a lot more.
yeah. So that's that one. Use of existing infrastructure. So this is a big cost item. I think in one case, does the alternative make the most efficient use of existing structure and equipment? What modifications would need to meet potential future regulations? For example, nutrient removal. Why are those in the same sentence?
But in the same sentence.
The nutrient removal, the kind of the modifications, and then the use of existing infrastructure is the.
Yeah, so you can, obviously in an effluent permit on any treatment plant, you're going to have a number of parameters that you have to comply with to meet state regulations as the water goes out into the receiving stream. BOD, ammonia, TSS, flow, chlorine, residuals, et cetera, a number of others. The state will on some frequency go in and do an evaluation of the receiving stream from time to time to identify its health. And if it classifies as, I was trying to remember the terminology in the last meeting, it's like a endangered, it's not endangered, it's not the word, but a compromised, then they are going to reduce the levels of those constituents or those levels of those parameters that you can release. So what that means is you have to build better facilities to get it cleaner, right? And so that could be one instance where regulations require you to make modifications. You could design into a facility that has flexibility that goes more stringent, right? And so the other thing might be, and this is what we see in the industry too, is that's growing around treatment plant permits is nutrient removal. So that is essentially nitrogen and phosphorus is what they're talking about. And when professionals in this world start seeing permits, so the effluent permit for wastewater treatment plants in Texas are updated every 5 years. And so that's when the TCQ would have the opportunity to come in and reevaluate what your parameters are. And so I've had it happen to me in a district where they said, yesterday I allowed you to put 600,000 gallons in that spot, but now you need to get it 1,000 feet into the lake. Well, how am I going to do that? I mean, I've got one pipe sticking, in a cove, and you're wanting me to put it that way 1,000, how do I do, so there's complications because they said, well, that cove can't handle that level of parameters that you're putting in at that spot. So I need you to go deeper and further, with it, or reduce it so much, which would have caused us to build massive other filtration, facilities that we didn't have the room for at that point. So that's just an example. Some facilities, you could design into it the idea that, hey, someday we will have to deal with nutrient removal because it's the growing trend. And it's not that I'm designing a facility that can handle it today, but I'm designing into the big picture of the phasing of this facility to be able to better scab on that piece of process unit that will address it someday in the future. So you're not paying for it now. Although what I'm being told is some of the MBR stuff actually can already handle it inherent to its technology. Again, I don't have a lot of MBR experience as much as conventional. So, but that's my understanding. So that would be where you're thinking about, is there any future flexibility in the facility that could tackle some of these either regulatory or nutrient issues that are likely going to come. In my career, I don't think I've ever seen a permit that's allowed more of the parameters. It's usually they get more stringent on the release of these, parameters.
So I don't know if one of the answers was this plant design uses 20% of the existing facility and this one uses 60%. That on its face would tell you a whole lot without digging a little bit deeper into, okay, so what do I get with that? Well, maybe if you use so much of the existing that it does kind of put a barrier around what you can do in the future to treat deeper. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it makes it more difficult. Maybe it doesn't. But those are the kind of things I think we'd want to. And then the sub criteria, if you want to really keep yourself up at night, get into the sub criteria within that one and kind of take a look at how that's weighted and what it tries to get to you. We talked about safety. I don't know if we need to get into any more discussion around that unless y'all want to. Constructability and sequencing, how complex will the coordination be between contractor and operations team? This is kind of what I was talking about, the simultaneous operations during construction. What are the length of shutdowns required while meeting permit requirements? What is the duration of construction for each alternative? How much space is available to construct staging on-site or off-site? This will lead to costs and potential delays, maybe, if things get behind. Tight work areas just take more time for people to move stuff around, pick up, push it, put it down, put pipe over there, drag it over there. That's the spot you have, but they're working on it over there. So it's just all these little things that can get into it, I guess, right?
Exactly.
As well as just people in the way of heavy equipment and moving big stuff around. So there's a safety component, I think, in this one as well. A big open area with brand new footprint, kind of blank lot. Certainly easier than doing it within an existing one for this category.
For the construction period, yeah.
But it's time bound. I mean, once it's done, it's done. You don't have to do that again. So
On that note, Hugh, SGRA is already buying land, right?
It's on hold right now.
well, 2 lots they made an offer on.
Yeah, but then they put it on hold until this analysis is complete.
Okay. Cause I could have sworn that Ed was saying that we're not eminent domain, but that they were evaluating some other neighbors.
No, I think they went through and evaluated all of them.
So it's all
And
been
then
appraised.
I think they had gotten to the point where maybe they did make some offers, but then this kind of went in this
Okay.
direction. And so I think what he reported, last month or the month before, someone asked one of the MUDs and he said, no, it's on hold
Oh, I
right
said, oh, okay. I didn't
until
realize
this is really, because I mean, if one of the in place options occurs,
Right.
now you might still consider some, you might still need some land for buffer, or you might still need some land for staging areas and things, maybe
Right.
on a temporary basis, maybe not.
Okay.
So it may not one option may not completely remove the need for additional land, but certainly not the level of land that, you know,
Got it, okay.
the new in, you know, would.
Purchase was under the impression we had. Okay,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay.
So
Well, you would know.
the 2 offers, Hugh, they've not necessarily been accepted yet. So nobody's transacted yet.
Well, so here's what the November said, land surrounding wastewater treatment plant number 1. Voluntary land acquisitions underway for 2 parcels, all others on hold, pending completion of owner advisor study. So I highlighted that when I read it last month. That was the November one.
So we don't know if they've voluntarily done a deal.
I don't know. We got so waylaid last time, I didn't ask the next question. I think it's the same, it's repeated in the December packet. Pretty sure.
Okay, all right.
So voluntary, to me, someone's raising their hand, say, hey, pick me, buy my land. I'm happy to have you come in. Versus somebody says, hell no, take me to court, right? That's what it sounds like to me.
So we might be working with the same footprint, maybe not.
We might have a couple lots that we don't need, or maybe we do. Let's see if there's another update to this. Hold on, I'm almost there. Yeah. Same thing, voluntary land acquisition underway for 2 parcels, all others on hold. That was the December packet. And that just changed from October. October said it was all on hold,
Correct.
and November is when this first showed up. Yeah. Okay, last one, community impact. What is the impact on the community during construction, noise, aesthetics? Would alternative require eminent domain? And if yes, how many properties, and what is the power usage for each alternative? That's funny. Yeah. So a little bit of a sustainability maybe feature in there, or it seems to be mostly focused on around construction and the process around which you're going to acquire land.
Wouldn't power usage be under operations and maintenance? Why is that?
I think it's if it's really power intense and it's maybe dirty and it's impacting the community.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't
I mean,
think,
it's all electric pumps and things like that. It's not like
agree,
you
it
set
should
a
be
bunch of,
enhanced.
you don't have a bunch of internal combustion engines out there, right?
Yeah.
It's not like a power plant that's.
yeah, I think mostly they're suggesting that, some of this is broken down in the sub criteria too, a little bit more
Mhm.
detail. It says odor, noise, aesthetics to the surrounding community. Again, key point to note that you noted was during construction. So post-construction, any plant may have some odor issues, but during construction, it's definitely gonna be louder. Aesthetics, I mean, it's back in the back, no one's gonna see it, other than you're probably gonna see, the roads are gonna need to be cleaned off, I'm sure, because there's gonna be construction equipment going in and out, so that's aesthetics, I think. There'll be tree buffers around it, so as far as sight, I don't know that that's gonna necessarily be an issue. And then, odor, if it's being built on top of each other simultaneously while operating, you're definitely gonna have some possibility of some some greater impact for odor because it's just gonna be harder for them to get permit, meet permit, and make sure that it's running. If you're over on the side and that's running normal, then they can do their normal operations. And so if we hadn't really had odor and, issues before, it's not gonna be an issue, I wouldn't think, in the, if they're sitting here on the side work, building the plant.
I think we need to be conscious though, from a community impact, the specific residents to the east and north are not gonna be happy with the plant being that much closer to their homes. And granted, they did buy a house, near a wastewater treatment plant, but if we have a way to influence the land acquisition to keep it more contained on the existing footprint.
Luckily, I think the layouts, as I recall, most of the work would be off to the east.
East, right.
From that, which is a good thing.
But there's still those
is.
residents there.
Yeah.
And then does the MBR technology inherently have less odor than conventional? I don't know. Those
That's a good question.
are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We good going through that?
I think that was nice.
Good discussion. Okay. So then, let's just start with the first, we'll go through the pairings here. I do have Diane's. So the first one, we're comparing criteria 1, life cycle cost, to criteria 2, option maintenance considerations. So the question is, what's the more important consideration or criterion to me is, who had number 1, 3, and who had number 2? 2?
What do you mean?
Hmm?
I haven't scored or anything.
Well, on the top
you-
one, did you pick 1 or 2?
Would you put 1 or 2 down for that one? Diane put 2, by the way.
Yeah, I would definitely put 2.
So we have
3 1s and 2 2s.
Okay.
So that's a 1, right?
Wow, that was a close call.
Okay. We good? Going on number 2. Okay, same criteria 1 now, life cycle against criteria 3, use of existing infrastructure. Who had criteria 1? I did as well. Diane had 2, so that's another 1. Correct.
Okay.
Now we do life cycle cost number 1 versus safety number 4. Who had number 1? Who had 4?
Be awful.
Yeah.
It's only just human lives and.
Don't leave it in.
All right. I'm gonna put 4. No, just.
I'm gonna watch you.
If you would I'm gonna recite them back in order, just so if you are keeping tabs, you can,
Mhm.
I can verify back to you
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
I'll go back to them.
Okay, so far we have 3 1.
Yeah, I'm keeping track.
Okay.
Cool.
The next one is life cycle cost versus criterion 5, constructability and sequencing. Okay, who had a 1? And who had a 5? I had a 5. And Diane had a 1, so it's a 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my safety spilling over into that one again. Welfare of human life. Okay, life cycle criterion, life cycle cost versus community impact, number 6. Life cycle cost, 1 here, 1 there, and well, we got a unanimous. So did Diane. So that's another 1. Okay, so we got the first one done, first set. Okay. Next one is criterion 2. So ops and maintenance considerations versus criteria 3, use of existing infrastructure. Who had 2? I had 2. Diane had, no, she had 3.
I'm a 3.
I'm a 3.
I'm
Okay.
2.
I'm a 2. So we're 2, but we have 2 2s and 3 3s.
Okay.
3 1. Yeah.
Use of existing infrastructure is the selection.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, ops and maintenance again now against safety. So ops and maintenance considerations. Who had a 1?
No, 2.
I'm 2.
2.
2.
2.
Oh,
It
I'm
was the
sorry.
first choice.
I'm sorry.
I have 2.
2 versus safety 4. So who had 2?
2.
2.
Three.
Ready.
Okay. 2 it is.
You
Where-
did such a nice
Where
thing.
was Diane? Oh, Diane was safety with me. See? No, she had 2. Just kidding. I have hers right here.
Poor Diane, she needs to take vitamin C.
Okay, so now we're down to, let's see, ops and maintenance versus constructability and sequencing. So that's 2 versus 5.
Can I pause right there? Since you come out of the industrial environment, Hugh, what am I not seeing with the constructability and sequencing? Is that more of a cost, or is that more of an interruption to service?
Well, I'll tell you my view, and then maybe the others can chime in. While constructions and sequencing is, it's time bound. All right. So the one thing is, I mean, once it's done, it's done. So it's not something you live with for 50 years.
Right.
And so that to me has some fairly significant weighting on it. It gets into some of the safety considerations clearly, because it's
The more
you're on top of
exposure
each
you
other,
have.
you're working in simultaneous operations.
Okay.
Ops and maintenance, you live with forever. I mean, whatever issues you have with maintenance and operations, whatever features they are,
Yeah.
you know, they're kind of with you forever.
Mhm.
You know, all the time, unless you decide to change something, you know, dramatically down the road. So that's how I kind of in my mind scored these two.
Okay.
What is temporary, what's permanent? That was one way to think about it.
And my feeling is that if the operation is not interrupted and they go an extra 6 months, then that really doesn't have any impact on level of service, which puts me back in the cost corner. Is that
But that's not, we're operation and maintenance versus constructability and sequencing.
correct?
Yeah,
So how we rank that? So I chose 2, but that's why I asked you. You know, is there something in that constructability and sequencing that I'm missing? Is it? I guess a bit of it's a safety impact. Maybe contractors go longer. There's a
If it goes longer, it's gonna be more expensive, because they're gonna have a daily burn rate on their, you know, on their, labor and whatnot. It will go likely I would expect it to go longer, likely longer if you're gonna do anything in place. You know, because because they're gonna have to take, and, you know, besides all the gymnastics that the operator's gonna have to do to keep the plant running. So I would guess there might be a little bit of a cost, ramification, but I don't know that it's significant.
it's just more ease of construction and less likelihood of problems.
For sure, yeah.
So you're gonna spend more for things that you wouldn't have to if it was a blank lot, right?
Right.
Whether that tops out makes it more expensive than the blank lot, I don't know, because you're gonna be using some more of the infrastructure probably.
Yeah, you might have
If you're
to,
going on top of the same one, you're sure are thinking about using some of the existing infrastructure, I would bet. You're not gonna try to fit it in around all the others.
Right.
You're gonna have to do a lot, but they're gonna have a lot of costs built into staging and unstaging, mobbing and demobbing and all these things you're gonna have to do to get all these pieces put in there and ultimately interconnected and operating.
yeah, you might have to bring in, pre-built, metal, process units to do that process while they're demobbing and demolishing and rebuilding on this, you know, let's just say aeration base or whatever it is. You might have to bring in some process units, which you on a temporary basis, or you might have to haul it to another plant and have another plant process. A lot of different things they may have to go through if they're running on top of each other or on top of themselves. Bypass pumping, for sure.
Yeah, okay, good,
Thanks.
yeah, you bet. Okay, so I think that was this third one with ops and maintenance versus criterion 5, right? So it was 2 versus 5. So who had it voted for 2? And let's see, so did Diana,
I'll be the off.
and then 5. Okay, 2 it is. Now we have ops and maintenance versus community impact. Number 6. So is it a 2? Who voted for 2? 1, 2, 3, 4. And it looks like Diane and I did the same thing. Good. So that's it.
You all voted for 2 there?
Yes. Yes. Okay, so now we're comparing 3. Use of existing infrastructure versus safety. Oh, we know the answer to this one. Right, so this is 3 versus 4. Who voted for 3? I'm just so disappointed.
3 of us at least.
Let's see, Diane did, you all did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 3 it is. I didn't. Okay, now use of existing infrastructure versus constructability and sequencing, okay? So that's 2 versus,
3
wait,
versus
did I
5.
miss one?
3 versus 5.
Sorry, 3 versus 5.
Structure.
Who voted for 3?
Everybody,
I didn't.
except for you.
Diane voted for 5. I voted for 3. Okay, so it's 3, right?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Well, she voted for 6 then, not 5.
No, we were on 3 and 5.
3 versus 5.
Oh, we're still on that
All right,
one.
let me make sure I've got this
And
right.
one person voted for 5.
3 versus 5. Oh, I picked 5. Yeah, I did. Okay, so that's a 5. Diane picked a 5.
But there were 3
But there were
threes,
3 threes.
so 3 wins. I like
Okay,
keeping track.
That's what I'm getting.
yeah,
3.
thank you. Okay, now 3 versus 6, which is the community impact. So 3 versus 6. Who voted for 3? Diane did.
I vote for 6.
I voted for 6.
3.
3 threes.
Okay, so now we're down to the last 3. So safety. 4 versus 5, constructability and sequencing. Who picked 4?
I'm gonna give you a 4.
Hey.
Boom. And look at you guys.
Safety culture.
Dude, I love it. See? Good
Merry
job.
Christmas.
Good job, everyone. And then safety
Hey, I totally.
Four
would vote for-
versus community impact.
I did 6 on that one.
Let's see. Diane did 4. I did 4.
I did 4.
4.
6 for me.
Okay, so it's 4 it is. Right? You get that?
It would be sad if anything. if
Yeah,
any-
could be somebody from the community.
Yeah.
To me, safety is
You had a death
It's
there?
was always paramount. I'm not a non-safety guy,
Well,
but I think
I'm
we need
beginning to
to,
question that.
I think that we need to, I mean, if you cut a tree down in this community, the community goes crazy. And so community impact, I think, needs to be.
Okay.
Permit isn't filed. Do you hear the tree fall?
The last
We're unincorporated.
The last thing is constructability and sequencing, number 5, versus community impact, number 6. So who voted for number 5? I did, Diane did.
6 for me.
Okay. So it's 5 it is. Good job, everyone.
Cool.
You want to go through it, Eric?
I sure do.
Take you
You ready? I'm just gonna go right down.
Mhm.
1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 5 in a row. 3, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5.
Yep.
Is that what it?
Got the same thing.
Very interesting.
How does that match up to what everybody else has gotten so far?
It's more similar to a couple. The last district was way different.
Really?
Mud 7?
Oh, yeah. And, cost was definitely not number one.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
was surprised, I think, everybody.
Yeah.
And then on another one, safety popped a little higher, a little harder on a couple, on maybe 2 others. I mean, generally speaking, the ones are getting it. I mean, for the most part, cost, I mean, everybody, I think, is interested in cost. Last district was a little different.
So I guess the one thing that I'm concerned about is why are we giving our weightings to the consultant now before they've done the study?
We're not giving it until now, so.
Are you recording this?
But,
You're recording this? I assume you're recording, right?
yeah, we're not giving them the waiting until the end of January.
They can watch the recordings.
Well, one of the reasons against good, Brad, is that it reduces some bias, right? If you knew the answers to some of these things, like if you knew membrane technology just kind of ticked certain boxes that were really important to you, you might just go ahead and kind of fade that way and think, well, I really want membrane, or I want the new piece of land. I don't think, I don't think we should do it on top of the other one. Whatever your view is, I'm not saying yours, but a person's view could be influenced by knowing kind of what the answer is to the evaluation. So
That's why I'm saying, why are we giving it to the consultant beforehand? Because then that might skew their study.
well, their study's going to help me if I'm wrong, but I think they're going to come back with a couple things, and I don't know if that was in our packet. I think the calendar, right? That was one of the pieces of on Shelley's email.
Yeah, they'll get all of the entries at the end of January. I'm gonna hold all of them, and they won't get them until the end of January. We've got 3 districts that aren't having December meetings, so they'll do theirs in January. And then I'm holding all of them until the end of January. And what they said on their schedule was at the end of January, basically during February, they'll be far enough, I think, in their evaluation of the options to then run this weighting at those options in February, so they can send out the draft report to, I guess in March is what the timeline showed.
And aren't they also doing an analysis of the remaining useful life of the big systems, correct?
I believe
So
so.
there's an asset integrity evaluation. That was one of the first things that they're at the top. What is that?
Oh, it's the condition assessment.
Condition assessment.
Yes.
So the good thing about that is I think it gives us another fresh view of condition assessment. Do we have 5 years of life left, or 10 or 15 or 20, whatever, of the different categories, your kind of your foundational stuff, your electrical and your process equipment. So that'll be good. But then when they do all the comparisons and you bring the sub criteria through, and then they put each alternative against them, you'll start seeing what we just did. I guess one of the other questions I might have is, I know SJRA, I think, is doing one of these. Is theirs weighted the same as ours? Because now you're going to have 10 MUDs with 10 of these ranked things, right? And is that just to become a simple majority? So 6 MUDs said number 1 was more important, just like if we did it, right? Just like we did, it would be a simple majority. If it's a 6-4, then whoever voted for the number 6 item, 6 of them, then that becomes the top criteria.
I mean, the software will vet all that out, but each one will be inputted separately into it. So they won't be combined before they get inputted.
And does SJRA just become another one? Are they the 11th MUD?
Yeah, they indicated, I think was it the trustee meeting, I think, that they may have a couple different ones from their operational group, Woodlands Division, et cetera. So I don't know the answer to how many they may have or not. But what the consultant did confirm at the trustee meeting was that the results of all of the entries will be provided at the end. So you'll get to see how all the MUDs, picked, as well as whatever SJRA picks as well. So
Okay. Good job, everyone. Okay, our second item, agenda item, is the Garver item. I think that's it, correct? Eric, do you want to?
yeah, it's more of a housekeeping item, but a few years ago, there was analysis to evaluate your sewer system on the retail side. So it's smaller ones that we're responsible for. And it was identified there's some manhole issues, there's some line issues, and it was agreed upon at that point to do the remediation or renewal in phases over 3 years. So it was year 1, year 2, year 3 phase. Mostly, I think, to spread costs. So each year you'd budget year 1, then next year 2, you budget year 3, in the final year. And so a couple months ago, year 1 construction was complete. And while phase 1, year 1 was being constructed, year 2 was in design. And so as year 1 was being finished construction, year 2 was gaining governmental approvals. and then it recently bid. So now year 3 will be starting design while year 2 goes into construction. And so this is the summary of the bid itself. And per TCQ rule, the engineer has to present to you the recommendation of award, engineer's recommendation of award, based on their review of the bids. And so that's what this is. And so long story short is we received bids, Garber, the engineering consultant. There were 2 bidders. The low bidder came in at 1.447. High bidder was 1.735. And the engineer's estimate was, I think, within like $1,000. It was unbelievable.
Crazy.
Yeah, really hadn't seen that before. The low bidder was Texas Pride. They were the contractor that actually did the construction in year 1, phase 1. And so we do have some history with them. And, you know, we had, I think with their familiarity with Garber, with phase 1, with all the people in play, they felt comfortable. And I think they bid accordingly because they knew what they were getting themselves into because they had just finished construction in phase 1. So I think that's part of why you see the bids the way they are, perhaps, which is good. And we didn't have any issues with them, any major issues with them during phase 1. So I think we agreed with Garver that to make the recommendation to award the contract to Garver. And this is a budgeted item already approved.
At this level?
Correct.
We kind of come in at this level, I thought, yeah.
Yeah, if there had been some significant excursion with engineer's estimate, then we would have brought back some additional dialogue to talk to everybody. But
So do we need to vote or?
yeah, we need to vote
Yeah.
concurrence to accept the recommendation of
Yeah.
award
So
of the contract. And then the next step is we'll enter into the contract on the MUD's behalf, and then it'll get rolling.
So we have a motion to authorize WWA to proceed with the Garber Engineering's recommendation of award.
I'll motion.
You have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And therefore we are adjourned. How about that? Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas.